Hello guys, this is Christian. In my new video, I'm gonna show you how to face the Blackmar-Diemer Gambit. And it's really important to know this because in many lines, white can easily transpose into this variation. Let's have a look. At first, we have maybe pawn to d4, pawn to d5, we have pawn to e4, d captures e4, then we have knight to c3, knight to f6, and a pawn to f3. This is the first one. So if you play the Queen's Gambit declined against d4, this can easily transpose into this Blackmar-Diemer. Second one is, if you are a Scandinavian player, you also have to be prepared against the Blackmar-Diemer. Let's have a look. Pawn to e4, pawn to d5 Scandinavian opening, then pawn to d4, then we have d captures e4, knight to c3, knight to f6 and f3, and we're also in Blackmar-Diemer variation. So, the last one I'm gonna show you is maybe you are an Indian player, and this starts with pawn to d4 and not pawn to d5, instead knight to f6. If you play this move order, can also transpose, because now after knight to c3, then we cannot play the normal Indian. So instead, in most cases, we're just playing pawn to d5 because this is the better move. And then also pawn to e4, pawn captures, and f3. And now we reached also the Blackmar-Diemer Gambit. Now, the best way to play for black is to accept the gambit with e captures on f3. There are also the possibilities with bishop f5, which I think is the second best option to play, and a sideline with pawn to c5. All variations are slightly better for black, and it's a kind of choice what you want to play now. At first we have a look at the main move, which is e captures on f3. Then we have knight captures on f3. And from here there are the two strongest variations you can play. At first, pawn to g6, which is called the Bogolyubov defense. And on the other hand, the Gundaram defense with bishop to f5. That are the best variations for black. But to understand why, I just want to show you a really bad move, which is bishop g4. The problem is the continuation is pretty much forced, and white can have really good game and active game. So let's have a look. I just play a few moves for you. So, and now the pawns on the king side are running. So, and this is not really good for black. I can show you now. The knight more or less has to capture the pawn on g4. It seems to be a good move, but now we have only active moves for white. Bishop attacking the queen. So bishop e7. Next move, bishop attacking the knight, has to be defended. And now bishop captures on e7. This is really tricky move because the queen cannot recapture, because after queen check and the black bishop is gone. So you can see that's really easy to play now for white. White can just castle on the queen side, and yeah, I hate the position for black now. So that's the reason why I don't want to play bishop to g4. Here, I just go back. Bishop to g4 now, and at move number 5 is not good idea. Okay, let's have a look at the strong variations you can play as black. At first, we have a look at bishop f5, the Gundaram defense. So computer move will be bishop to d3, that's the better move, but in practice they play bishop c4, I think. So, but at first we have a look at bishop to d3, then we just should capture the bishop, and after queen takes, just play a few moves for you, and then we reach the standard position. So this is the standard position here. I would say our plan is to play bishop to e7 and then starting a pawn attack. And yeah, it's not really easy to create some nasty attack for white. And we're just one pawn ahead. So I think it's good for black. So now let's go back to move number 5. After bishop f5, the Gundaram defense, the most often played move from white is bishop to c4. That's why we have a look at this. This is really important to know. So now we have pawn to c6. This is in general a really important move in the Blackmar-Diemer Gambit. Then we have knight to e5, we have e6, and from here we reached a critical position. Now there are two possibilities for white. At first, it seems to be a really good move to castle on the king side, because now black has a tricky move, rook captures the bishop on f5. So we should not allow this and retreat the bishop to the g6. And from here we have a really comfortable game as black. Let's have a look. Bishop g5. And after queen to c7, you can see there's no dangerous attack from white, and black is just a pawn ahead. But what will happen after pawn to g4, which is the main move in the position? And from here, there is a really cool move. And this is the brilliant move, knight from f to d7. It's really tricky because the diagonal is free for the queen to give this check. That's the point behind this. We cannot capture because now we can play queen check, king to f1, and now we capture the knight. And if he recaptures, queen captures on c4 with check. This is a winning position, definitely for black. So, but it's also no other very good move, because after knight retreats to the d3, we can also give this queen check, knight goes to f2, and bishop retreats. And this position is also slightly better for black. Let's go back into move number 5 after pawn to g6. The Bogal-Yugov defense. If you want to play this, you have to listen up now. So bishop c4, bishop g7, and from here it's just a big difference how to play if he wants to castle short or long. So we have to look at both variations. At first we have a look at the move castle on the king side, and now I just play a few moves for you, then you know how to develop your pieces, and then I can explain you the position. That were the best moves for both sides. And I like the position pretty much for black because it's really hard to find an attack for white. And at least black is 2 pawns ahead. And maybe after another move order, at least 1 pawn ahead. So he has to find some attack. Maybe he wants to create an attack on the f6 square. And this can happen in practice after bishop to g5. And from here, the threat is to play pawn to g4, and then the f6 square will be really weak. So, but this is actually not working, of course. So I show you that after pawn to h6. So whenever this dark square bishop from white attacks or takes the pawn on h6 or retreats, we have this cover check on the queen, because now knight to e4 is working. From here, he has to capture the queen, and after rook takes, we have bishop captures, and then this move knight captures on d2, and from here we are just a piece up, because now after bishop f6 we just capture the bishop on c4, and this is pretty much winning position for black. The other way to play is bishop to g5 and preparing for the queenside castle. So, but against this we have a really strong reply as black, and this is castle on the king side, then queen d2. Important c6 move, you have to keep in mind this. In Blackmar-Diemer, c6 really strong move in the most of the cases. So castle on the queen side. From here we have an easy plan with black. We can start immediately the pawn push to b5, but in general our plan is to placing the bishop at g4, pinning the knight, and when this bishop will be asked, maybe with pawn to h3, just capture this knight, remove it. Then you just have to play knight from b to d7, and then go with this pawn storm on the queen side. This is a simple continuation how you can go for a better position with black. So let's have a look at the best moves with Stockfish, and the first move is pawn to b5, then bishop to d3, then pinning this knight, king to b1, knight from bd7, h3, and I said to you, when this bishop will be asked, just capture the knight, and from here we have the knight to the b6, and queen captures. And from here this position is at least at +3 for black. It's a pretty much winning position, and I think I don't have to tell you more about the variation now. So that's why I like the Bogal-Yugov defense. So I think this is the best way to accept this gambit. But if you don't want to accept it, I can show you how to play bishop f5 variation, or also c5, which is definitely good for black. If I had to decide to decline the gambit, I would choose the bishop to the f5 because this is pretty much forced variation. Let's have a look. And from here, we just have to play the c5 move, attacking the center, and this is slightly better for black. At least we're gonna talk about the variation after pawn to c5. The little problem is white has this move pawn to d5. And after a few moves, I can show you why I don't like this move. So. From here, it seems to be a really good position for black. We have a beautiful pawn chain to attack your opponent's king, but sooner or later, the problem is he can play pawn to d6 and can equalize the game, and he has a strong d-file. So that's the reason why this is not the strongest reply for black. It's also slightly better maybe because black is one pawn ahead, but I would not really recommend this variation. So I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something. Let me know if you have some questions left, and I see you in the next videos. Ciao, ciao.